the very end of the third round of FIFA World Cup qualifying in the Africa zone is nearly finished. We're now in the final match days of 9 and 10 in this international break of October. So basically, in the next 10 days, we're going to know which 9 teams are going to be representing the African continent in the Americas next summer at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Some places are still up for grabs, and we're going to be talking about those matches and previewing all of that coming up next on the African Five-a-Side podcast. Hello and welcome to the African Football Report on the African Five-a-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Really good article on the website this week called Who Pays for Africa's Food Future? And it's an interesting article that sort of asks questions about like, how have crops traditionally been grown in Africa? Who have they been grown for? Is there an alternative? With several series of interviews, and I highly recommend everyone reads it. Something that we don't always think about, linking food and politics, but I do think is quite important. So if you're interested in that, there will be a link to the article in the description below. But if you're here for the football, let's talk about the football. So as mentioned, we're going to go group by group and give our main thoughts about each of the teams and predict who of the 9 teams are going to be representing Africa next summer, and which of the 4 best second place teams will be competing first in a continental playoff and then into intercontinental playoff for that chance to perhaps become Africa's 10th and final team to represent the continent in the Americas. So let's start with Group A. And in Group A, the teams that are really in the mix here are Egypt with 8 matches played, a plus 14 goal difference, and they have 20 points to their name. In second place in Group A, we have Burkina Faso, who have a plus 12 goal difference, so just 2 behind Egypt, and they have 15 points after 8 matches played. So they're 5 points behind Egypt. And then you have Sierra Leone, who has no chance of automatically qualifying because they only have 12 points, but they could leapfrog Burkina Faso and perhaps finish as one of the best 4 second place teams, is what I wanted to say. And so the way this will be looking over the next few days is Egypt play against Djibouti away from home on October 8th in Morocco, and then they play against Guinea-Bissau at home. Burkina Faso actually go to Sierra Leone, the team that's directly behind them, just 3 points behind, and then they'll host Ethiopia at home. Sierra Leone, obviously, as I mentioned, will play Burkina Faso at home, and then they'll go to Djibouti away. So when I look at this, I think Egypt is through. They only need 2 points to automatically qualify, right? For me, that's a formality. 2 points from 3 matches. They're playing Djibouti, who are last in the group, historically one of the weakest sides on the African continent, even though they've improved very recently. And then you have a home match to cap it all off against Guinea-Bissau. I'm expecting them really to pick up 46 points. The main news from Egypt: no Omar Marmoush, the Manchester City forward, no Imam Ashour, the Al Ahly attacking midfielder, no Mohamed Abdel Monem, the Al Ahly center half. Other interesting thing that I've picked up in the news is that the Egyptian FA president, Hani Abu Reda, said that Hussam Hassan, the Egyptian coach that has led them to this qualifying berth, that has also helped them qualify to the African Cup of Nations, he says that Hussam Hassan, Abu Reda, the Egyptian FA president, Hussam Hassan will continue after the African Cup of Nations, regardless of the team's results in the AFCON. So he's saying that Hussam Hassan will most likely be in the Americas next summer. He says, we don't know exactly how things will unfold, and I'm quoting now, but I believe the team can at least reach the semifinals of the AFCON and then impress at the World Cup. So look, this is going to be one of those for Egypt. I think everybody already knows that they've qualified. No Marmoush, as I mentioned, no Imam Ashour, no Mohamed Abdel Monem, 3 very important players. Mohamed Salah is coming into this international window, I think, with a little bit of a dip in form. The last 3 matches against Crystal Palace, Galatasaray, and Chelsea, I think he's been quite poor, according to Chelsea Liverpool fans. But we're also quite harsh on him. We're talking about a player that had a dip in form for 3 matches, and all of a sudden we're questioning. I can't lie to you. Immediately I started thinking, should Liverpool have given him that long-term contract? Is he finally, past his prime? Is old age catching up with him? And it's only been 3 matches, so that shows you how great he is. But throughout these qualifiers, besides Salah, the best player for Egypt has been Mahmoud Trezeguet. So I'm curious to see if that continues, if he continues to score or assist the all important goals, and if Mohamed Salah arriving late, um, you know, how is he going to perform? And finally, like one of the main characteristics of this Egyptian side under Hassan Hassan is that he's sort of thrown on all of his attacking midfielders and gone for broke. I do wonder if he's going to take perhaps more of a conservative approach here, knowing that he only needs 2 points out of the 3 matches, um, and that some of his best attacking players like Manmouche and like Ashur are injured, and some players like Salah are arriving late. So all of these things lead me to think that maybe he's going to be a little bit more conservative here. Still, like I mentioned, I think Egypt are going to come away with 4 to 6 points and they'll qualify automatically. As for Burkina Faso versus Sierra Leone in Sierra Leone, that's a fascinating matchup. Burkina Faso in the last international window, I think they found their midfield three, and it's Josue Tiendre Biogo, who plays for Annecy in the second division in France. He's kind of a good alternative for Stefan Aziz-Ki, an attacking midfielder that can score from outside of the box with long range shots. Then they had Blati Toure, who's been a mainstay, a fixture in their midfield really for the last decade, and Saidou Simpore or Mohamed Zugrana. But really, I think they finally found the right mix in midfield. They're very complementary, and they played really well, particularly in the match against Djibouti for Burkina Faso. And I'm curious to see how they'll play away from home in Sierra Leone here. Other main problem that I don't know for Burkina Faso is who's going to play their number 9 position. In the September window, they beat Djibouti, I think 4-0 or 5-0, and then when it was time for somebody to really step up, they're playing against Egypt. This could be like one of those 6-point matchups. Lassina Traore wasn't there. The sort of big hope for them as a striker from his time at Ajax Amsterdam and Shakhtar Donetsk, but he's been incessantly injured, and that's been the main problem with him. And if Lassina Traore isn't there, who is the solution? Some people say Mohamed Konate. He started matches at the African Cup of Nations before. I don't think he's at that level. And so this match, I'm reading Burkinabe Press, they're saying that it's going to be Bertrand Traore who's going to play as a false 9, then go Ouattara in behind him. I don't know if that's a solution. And these are things that I'm thinking about, going into the AFCON, and then perhaps, who knows, going into the World Cup. Because actually, my prediction is that not only will Egypt qualify automatically, I think we're going to have a second team from Group A. I think Burkina Faso is probably going to pick up 3 to 4 points over the next 2 matches and probably qualify to the continental playoff as one of the best 4 second place teams. Yeah. But really, if you are Burkina Faso, your mindset has to be take care of business on October 8th against Sierra Leone. Don't invite unnecessary pressure on yourself, because if you lose to Sierra Leone, you'll still be in second place, even though you'll be equal on points, but you'll have a better goal difference. But then you have like this crazy amount of pressure on yourself to really get 3 points in that last match against Ethiopia at home. Should be able to do it anyways. Even if they lose, technically, you just need to match your result because you have plus 12 goal difference and Sierra Leone have plus 2 goal difference. So you just need to match results with Sierra Leone for the 10th match day. No need to panic, but don't invite unnecessary pressure on yourself. Just take care of business against Sierra Leone. Just get a draw, and you're pretty much guaranteed to finish in second place. And if you're Sierra Leone, look, this is the biggest game since the AFCON 2021. Maybe even bigger, actually, because this is a chance to perhaps, who knows, if they pick up 6 points, qualify to the continental playoff. And like Gabon, they're really bringing, like all the big names. Kai Kamara has been an influential player over the last few months, scoring goals against Guinea-Bissau, 41 years old. Mohamed Kalan, the perhaps greatest ever Sierra Leonean player, is the coach of this Leone Stars team. So it seems like, everybody's coming, the gang sort of back together. Everybody that's somebody in Sierra Leonean football is trying to help them pull this off. But beating Burkina isn't enough, and that's what makes it a long shot. I think they can beat Burkina Faso, but even then, they have to hope that Burkina trips up at home. And I don't think that's going to happen. So, prediction: Egypt through, Burkina Faso also through to the continental playoff, but Egypt through to the World Cup. Group B, we have Senegal with 8 matches played, plus 10 goal difference and 18 points. DR Congo also 8 matches played, plus 7 goal difference and 16 points. So 2 points behind the leader Senegal, and then you have Sudan, who's in third place with 12 points. And the way the fixtures are going to sort of play out are you have Senegal traveling to Juba in South Sudan on October 10th. Senegal then plays Mauritania on October 14th at home. DR Congo goes to Togo on October 10th and then receives Sudan at home October 14th. And then Sudan versus Mauritania at home on October 9th. And then they go away to DR Congo on October 14th. What did we learn from Senegal in the last round? I think of all the teams on the African continent, we learned the most about Senegal in September. They came into that international window with a lot of question marks, needing 6 points because they're not first in the group. They are quite clearly the best, if not one of the best teams in Africa. Definitely the most talented team in Africa. And they have a coach that's not really inexperienced, but he hasn't really been put in a position like this where it's an imperative must-win match away from home in a place like the Stade de Martyrs in Kinshasa against DR Congo, who finished third, if you recall, at the last AFCON. And so there's, they had the most to prove, and they proved the most. They came away with 6 points, absolutely demolishing Sudan at home, even though it was only 2-0. That game was never close. And then they go to Congo and they win. Was it 3-2? I think it was 3-2. Yeah, because they were down 2-0 early on. And even the manner in which they came back, that was also very impressive. So Pap Thiaw, the coach, for me, he evolved in that September window. The way I see him, the way the continent sees him, probably the way he sees himself is no longer the same. And that means a lot going into the AFCON. That's something that we all have to take note of. The other thing that we're thinking about in terms of Senegal is Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane, like Riyad Mahrez, it's fitting that we can make these determinations about the two of them together because for so long, them two plus Mohamed Salah carried really the African continent in terms of superstars in the Premier League and in European football. I think they're both done. Sadio Mane has been incredibly disappointing throughout the calendar year of 2025 for the Senegalese national team. And we can say the same thing about Riyad Mahrez. Even like really since might be harsh to say this, but since the 2019 AFCON, he's been subpar for the Algerian national team. That is a little bit harsh, but definitely over the last 2 years. And so the question is, can you bench him? And how do you bench him? I think you can, just because Iliman Ndiaye and Ismail Assar have stepped up, not just for Senegal, but they're even in good form at their clubs. But is it time? Because there was a thing, when Senegal went down 2-0 in Kinshasa, the camera panned to Sadio Mane, and you could see him speaking to his teammates, saying like, "Let's lock in, let's focus." And if he's saying that, maybe he brings a leadership element, but on the pitch, what he's doing with his feet isn't good enough. Can Pap Thiaw bench him? That's a very interesting question and something that we have to pay attention to ahead of the AFCON. If he can, and if he does it successfully, that's also going to show me something else about Pap Thiaw, that he has the courage and the strength really to make this team in his own image and not necessarily just inherit strong players and a strong legacy of the generations past. Finally, yeah, Senegal, what we learned in the last window was that this team has the perfect blend of experience and youth. They had the experience, again, Mane saying, "Don't panic, we got this, let's lock in," but also the energy of the youth. If you watch that match against DRC, they went behind early 2-0, and then not only did they have the experienced players to help them stay in the game, but they also had the youth, which provided the energy, because around the 60th minute, that game shifted on its head. A lot of Congolese players ran out of gas, and the Senegalese players were just growing in strength and energy, and that's why I say it's the perfect combination of energy and youth. So yeah, for these two matches in South Sudan, look, you can't be complacent. They're already in Juba right now. If they lose somehow, some way, even if they draw, DRC, if they win 3-0, for example, or 4-0, they can catch up with goal difference. If Senegal draw and DRC win, and they can leapfrog Senegal again. So you did all of that for nothing. So Senegal can't be complacent. They're in South Sudan. They need to beat South Sudan. Edouard Mendy, Pape Gueye, Mustafa Mbo already there. There are more arriving for a match that's 4 days from now. So it doesn't seem like they're being complacent. I like the fact that they get to Juba early. But the mentality has to be playing against actually the two bottom teams in this very difficult group in South Sudan and Mauritania. They're over the hill in terms that they got past the difficult teams already, But now if you're on a bike, you're over the hill, but you still have to pedal hard through the finish line. Cannot be complacent here. DR Congo. What did we learn about DR Congo in September? We learned that qualification to the World Cup or to major tournaments is also about timing. Because their best players, Yohan Wissa and Chancellor Mbemba, they were not ready to play against Senegal physically. Yohan Wissa was cramping up and he had to be subbed out in the 75th minute. Chancellor Mbemba was not the Chancellor Mbemba that we know and that he has actually grown into over the last few weeks as he started to play football again. Because Chancellor Mbemba wasn't playing football for more than a year ahead of that match against Senegal. And Yohan Wissa, because of club troubles, and Yohan Wissa, remember, was holding out throughout the entire summer. He wasn't really training with Newcastle. He was forcing a move. He was forcing a move away from Brentford to Newcastle. And as a result, that's probably why he wasn't fit. So it's about timing as well. If that match was played maybe in September, October, it might have been a different story. I don't know. But we also learned that, Sebastian Desabre was criticized for the first time since taking over. He was criticized because people felt like he didn't manage that game correctly. He had a 2-0 lead. And you could see that the team physically was dwindling and he didn't make any changes. Now, were there solutions? I don't know. Maybe he makes the changes and Senegal come back even quicker or they lose 4-2 or 5-2 or 6-2. So it's easy to criticize, but the reality is he is being criticized in Congo for the very first time since he's taken over. There's a little bit of a rupture of sorts after a year and a half of a honeymoon period. So what do they need to do this window? Look, Yohan Wissa is still out with an injury that he picked up a few weeks ago. Mbemba, as I mentioned, has been great for Lille in the Champions League. I want to see more of Fiston Mayele. I think Cedric Bakambu is really good, but Mayele needs to get on faster. He's been in great form, and I think he can really provide the goals now. And that's the key for DRC now is, look, you're -2 against Senegal, right? In terms of goal difference. 2 points behind and two goals behind in goal difference. So, 3 goals behind in goal difference. If, by the grace of God, Senegal tie a match, you need to make sure you get 6 points, and you need to make sure you're winning matches 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. So yeah, win away from home, secure second. There's also one more thing that we have to. They have 16 points, DRC, right? And so if they win both of their matches, even if Senegal wins both of their matches, there's a very, very good chance that the DRC is also probably going to qualify to the continental playoff. So win away from home in that first match against Togo, and then you have Sudan at home, and you just got to hope that Sudan is already going to be out. They're not going to be motivated anymore. And it's not going to be an easy match, but it should be easier if that is the case. So if you can come away with 46 points, I think they're going to qualify for the continental playoff. And that's going to be my prediction. DRC Senegal qualify automatically. DRC in the continental playoff as the second, I don't know how, basically the second one after Burkina Faso. Jesus, such a tongue twister. Sudan were, very quickly, a note about Sudan, they were undone in September because they had huge injuries to Mohamed Abdelrahman Al-Qurbal, Mohamed Mustafa, the goalkeeper, Ramdan Ajib, the right back and captain. And they were outplayed by Senegal, as I mentioned. And then the body blow was the loss to Togo. They go to Togo and they lose. It's the best story in football. Unfortunately, it needs a miracle now. They need 6 points. And they need help. They need DR Congo to drop points to perhaps finish in second place and then perhaps make it to the continental playoff, or then, there's an odyssey to try and get to the World Cup. But that September window was a catastrophe for them. Group C, we have Benin with 14 points, and now leading the group, and now we have South Africa with 14 points as well. Benin are +4 in goal difference, South Africa are +3. Nigeria have 11 points, and they are +2. And this is the one, that been the talk of the continent over the last 2 weeks, because FIFA finally made a decision and docked South Africa 3 points and 3 goals for using Tabo Mokoena against Lesotho while he was ineligible. And as a result, South Africa were top of the table. Now they're in second place, just behind Benin, but they are behind Benin. Benin, this is crazy to me. They have 2 away matches, one against Rwanda, one against Nigeria. So they have a very tough 2 matches coming up. And they're both away from home. And they play on October 10th and October 13th. They're 72 hours apart. Like, I don't know if maybe they don't control the scheduling, but they have to be absolutely livid with that. South Africa plays Zimbabwe technically away from home and Rwanda at home. But I do think South Africa are playing Zimbabwe in South Africa. So in that case, they would be receiving the Moroccan home field advantage, as I like to say. Yeah, they're playing Zimbabwe in Durban, so they're playing Zimbabwe at home. So, um, the Moroccan home field advantage. They're playing both. Algeria is also going to be doing the same, by the way. Um, so two matches at home. I think they still have the advantage here. Nigeria go to Lesotho, I think in South Africa as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure about that, on October 9th, and then they host Benin, right? So, Benin, first of all, even though I still think South Africa are going to qualify first in the group, we have to shout out Benin. I think they possess some of Africa's most underrated players, and they're like underrated players that even I think African football connoisseurs don't really know. They're the ultimate hipster players. Andreas Hutonji has been one of the revelations in the Bundesliga this season for St. Pauli. 3 goals in 5 matches when I did the research for this video. Tosin Ayegun in France for Lorient, 3 goals in 7 matches. I think he's tied for second place amongst France's top goal scorers. You also have an experienced striker in Steve Mounier. You have a winger in Junior Oleten that has been great, even though it doesn't really reflect in his goal outputs over the seasons. He had a really great season last year. And then Hassan Imran in defensive midfield, one of the brighter young talents in midfield on the African continent, just 22 years old. So they're all of these players, if you ask, like, again, even journalists that follow African football, I think very, very few will actually be familiar with them. But when you see what they're doing in their club careers and how they perform with their national team, you realize, oh, these guys are really quite good. Um, Hutonji, the St. Pauli forward, said, I don't know if it's really dawned on me yet how close we are to actually qualifying, but I cannot wait to get out there and play in these 2 matches. This was in an interview with FIFA.com. Again, my main problem with Benin is the 72 hours and you're playing 2 matches away from home. Like, that's very, very difficult. As for South Africa, look, SAFA are the problem here. SAFA are the reason that Bafana are in this position, and they should absolutely take responsibility for this. But the other thing that we learned in the September window is that this team is deep in terms of talent because there were a huge amount of injuries. Practically the whole defensive line wasn't really there in September. And still, South Africa continued to look dominant. So not just deep in terms of talent, but also coachability. Even without the Sundowns chemistry, what I saw was a homogeneous group in terms of, like, you could bring in somebody with just 1 cap or 2 caps or 3 caps, and they would be performing to the level that Hugo Bruce wants them to, on short notice. So I was very impressed with South Africa in September. Look, I think if you're South Africa, if you win 6 points, right? If you win your 2 matches, both at home again, I think you're through 99%. I don't think there's any way that Benin also gets 6 points and has a better goal difference than you. But still, so you have to have a one-track mind. Just focus on your matches and try to win by as many goals as possible, if possible. Unfortunately for South Africa, no Mofokeng in this match. Shabalala replaces him. Duduzi Shabalala from Kaizer Chiefs. Satole Lile Foster arrived late. But yeah, as I mentioned, both matches played in Morocco, so they get the Moroccan-style home advantage. Nigeria. What did we learn from Nigeria in September? I think not much. It's not new, but we learned that Victor Osimhen is absolutely indispensable to this team's success because he picked up an injury, didn't really play, and they struggled. I thought they could have made a quicker choice in playing Tolu Arokodare, the Wolf striker, who's been very good in these qualifiers. All the teams have found it very difficult to deal with him in the air. But yeah, without Osimhen, this team doesn't look sharp. There's been some criticism in Nigeria about the squad list. Somebody wrote this squad list because it has 5 strikers and 4 midfielders. They said is all chest, no legs, as if, like those gym bros that only work out, their biceps and their chest, but they don't work out legs. But actually, I think Cyril Dessers is out with injury, and Crescentis Uche, the new Crystal Palace attacking midfielder, is in. So that tilts the balance back a little bit. Victor Osimhen, even though he's been very, very good with Galatasaray against Liverpool. He's won plaudits all over Europe. He's still not fully fit, apparently. but I do think he's going to be playing in both of these matches. Ultimately, for Nigeria, though, I think they just dropped too many points. I think they will finish second in this group, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to be one of the best runners up on the African continent. I think they'll probably finish with something like 15 points, maybe a win and a draw, or even if they finish with, 17 points, I don't think that's going to be enough. I think they might just miss out on continental playoff. But still, if you're them, one track mind. Like South Africa, you have to be thinking about nothing less than 6 points, and hopefully the biggest blessings from the Lord above. Group D, where we have Cape Verde on the cusp. They would be the second smallest country to ever qualify for a World Cup after Iceland in 2018. Cape Verde have 19 points after 8 matches played. Cameroon have 15 points after 8 matches played. And then Libya are sitting in third place with 14 points. Cape Verde actually have to go to Libya, who are very hot at the moment. They won their last 2 matches with Aliou Cisse at the helm. And then Cape Verde have Eswatini at home. So you're thinking, Cape Verde is thinking, even if we lose that match to Libya away from home, as long as we take care of business against Eswatini, who are last place at home, we should be okay. And Cameroon play Mauritius, and then they play Angola at home. Mauritius away from home, Angola at home. So Cameroon, they will at least have 18 points because they should beat Mauritius, right? And then Libya, as mentioned, they play Cape Verde. So if they can beat them, they'll have 17 points. And then they play Mauritius, so they'll probably beat them as well. I think there's a very good chance that if Libya can beat Cape Verde, they'll come away with 20 points. And so Cameroon, they have a lot of pressure on them for that second match against Angola. There's going to be a good fight really for who's going to finish in second place here. But I do think that Cape Verde are going to go through because they do play Eswatini at home on October 12th. So what do we learn about Cape Verde in September? We learned that magic still exists, that the, again, second smallest country, an archipelago of 500,000 people can get to the World Cup. We learned that their number 9, their striker, Delan Livramento, is a menace with his pace. He absolutely torched Cameroon. And that was that match again. That is going to be, Cape Verdeans are going to be telling their children about that match against Cameroon in September of 2025 for generations and generations to come. And Livramento's goal, that was a 6-pointer, because Cameroon were chasing Cape Verde and Cape Verde managed to separate. The only thing is, don't choke now. Like, take anything you can from Libya away from home. If you can get a draw, perfect. If you can't, that's fine. The second match should be a formality, but man, do not choke this now. If you're Cameroon, what we learned from September was that, look, dysfunction gets to you. Even if it's not today, even if it's not tomorrow, even if it's not next week or next month or 6 months from now, eventually the dysfunction between the Ministry of Sport and the Federation seeped into that team. And there's no way that Cameroon, with that body of players, should not be finishing top of the group. And finally, Libya, like sneakily, with Aliou Cisse at the helm, because that September window was really his first window where he was fully in charge, where he had the time to really prepare it properly. And he finished 2 great victories, incredible victories for Aliou Cisse. And now, again, he has a very good chance of really, I think, in my opinion, if he can beat Cape Verde at home, which he absolutely can, finishing with 20 points, which would probably put them second in this group. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's definitely possible. Or it's not probable, but it's definitely possible. And for Aliou Cisse, for me, this was a risky job, for him. And he can come away with this with not only his reputation intact, he can actually increase his reputation if he can get Libya to a continental playoff. My prediction here is going to be Cape Verde go through 22 points or 23 points. And then I think Cameroon will do enough they'll beat Mauritius, and then they'll do enough against Angola at home to finish second in this group and also qualify to the continental playoff. So far, 3 of my 4 teams that I think will make it to the continental playoff: Cameroon, DR Congo, Burkina Faso. The next group is going to be Group E. Morocco have already qualified. There's nothing really to talk about. They have a lot of injuries. They won't really be playing. A lot of players are pulled out, and I think it's one of those things where the clubs, they reach out to the federations and they'll be like, look, you guys are already qualified. Can you experiment with some players? Can you leave our players to us? And I think the federation duly obliges. So nothing really to talk about from Morocco. For them, the main thing here, I think, in this international window for Walid Regragui is switch. The switch should be flipped now to AFCON. AFCON. Because AFCON, Morocco, we know, like, over the last 3 years, they've been, definitely one of, if not the best team in Africa. And they're going, they got to the semifinals in 2022, and they're going to 2026 here, and they're on this track to really make history. And they have the AFCON coming up in 2025, just in 2 months' time. And it's like that AFCON can either propel them to maybe equal or do better than what they did in 2022, or it could completely scupper things. If they get eliminated in the group stages at home, crazier things have happened in African football. That could completely flip the boat on. Like, Regragui could be gone. Then you get Venom and Poison, and like, they need to make sure they do good in December. Not just do good. They need to make sure they win in December. And so I think if you're Walid Regragui, you've already flipped the switch and you're already thinking about December. Obviously, you've already qualified, so now maybe you're experimenting with different systems, different players, different formations, and yeah, trying to avoid injuries as much as possible. In Group F, we have Côte d'Ivoire with 20 points, Gabon with 19 points. So immediately you're thinking 19 points. Wow. They play the Gambia and Burundi, not easy matches, but Gabon is probably going to be the fourth and final, or whoever finishes second is going to be the fourth and final team in the continental playoff. I do think it's going to be Gabon because Côte d'Ivoire play against Seychelles, who have been the weakest side in this entire qualifying campaign. I think they have minus 37 goal difference. And then they play Kenya at home. So Seychelles away, Kenya at home. Gabon have the Gambia away and Burundi at home. Gabon have the tougher matches than Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire, however, they do have a lot of injury problems. There's going to be no Odilon Kosono, who starts in defense for them. There's going to be no Wilfred Senghor, who also starts in defense for them. No Jean-Philippe Bama, who starts in midfield for them. And no Seko Fofana, who also starts in midfield for them. So 2 starting defenders, 2 starting midfielders out. What we learned about Côte d'Ivoire in September, yeah, good luck scoring on them, basically. Best defense in Africa alongside Tunisia. But you probably don't need much luck shutting them out as well. That match against Gabon, they never really created any great chances. And even against Burundi in September, they never really created any great scoring chances. So they kind of worry me under Emers Faye, where defensively they're very, very strong. But at the same time, despite all the attacking talent that they have, they've really struggled to score goals. So if you're, I don't know, but if you're Côte d'Ivoire, basically just 6 points. 6 points, you should be able to do it. Seychelles away should be able to do it. Kenya at home should be able to do it. There's no excuse for you not to be finished top of the group. As for Gabon, it was really cool to watch them in September, actually, because the squad was back together. Didier Ibrahim and Dunk, who's been there since 2012. Andre Biogo Poko, who's been there since 2012. Bruno Kalemongo has probably been there since 2009 or 10. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's been there since 2011 or 10. All these players, they were there, and they were trying to get Gabon over the hump, trying to upset Côte d'Ivoire, trying to qualify for the World Cup for the first time in their country's history. They're just a country of 2 million people, so that would be equally special. Not equally, but it would be just as special, a little less special than Cape Verde making it. So yeah, it was good to see like the whole band back together. Thierry Muyuma, the coach, I think has done a fantastic job in ensuring that team chemistry is there. Mario Lamine is another veteran that I didn't mention. But still, despite all those big names, Denis Bouanga on the left wing is the key man for this Gabon team. I watched him against Côte d'Ivoire. I've watched him play with the national team since 2017. He's even better than Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for Gabon. And he just became the record goal scorer for LAFC, ahead of Carlos Vela. And again, he's just like for Egypt. For Egypt, Salah is 1A, Trezeguet is 1B. For Gabon, it's actually Bouanga, the lesser name. That's 1A in my opinion. And Aubameyang is 1B, or maybe even 2. But Aubameyang is having a great season with Marseille. And so it's good to see him really involved. He seems more active. He seems more motivated for Gabon than he has in a long time. But Gabon have 2 tougher matches, but still anything is possible. They need to make sure they take care of business. But I do think Côte d'Ivoire finished 1, Gabon 2. Group G, Algeria plays they have the Morocco home field advantage. They're playing against Somalia at home, even though it's supposed to be an away match. And then they also play against Uganda at home. So Algeria just need 2 points as well. Um, I think actually, sorry, they need 3 points. They'll get that against Somalia. Um, and they'll qualify. So there's really nothing here for Uganda or Mozambique, who are in second and third place respectively. They, even though they're sitting on 15 points, you'd think, okay, they have a great window. They'll have 21 points, but their goal difference is really, really poor. And also, I also think that they may be playing each other, so they'll take points off of off of one another as well. So I really think it's just going to be Algeria out of Group G. But Algeria, things are not all rosy in Algeria. People were very, very disappointed with Algeria's performances in September against Botswana and against Guinea. Yeah, they drew with Guinea away from home, and Botswana was really rough until the end of the match. Um, and for the very first time, the Algerian FA president spoke to the coach Vladimir Petkovic and told him, hey, we need to change. So something's not working here. And if you don't change and if you don't do things differently, your job could be in jeopardy. Even though, man, like they would have to give him a crazy buyout because he met all of his objectives and they've qualified to the AFCON, they've qualified to the World Cup. I mean, as long as he doesn't have a catastrophic AFCON, technically, if they fire him, they have to pay out his whole entire contract, right? Um, so they still put a little bit of pressure on him, on Petkovic. And that is the general sentiment in Algeria. It's like this team on paper, if you look at the qualifying group that Algeria has, is quite weak. This team on paper, you know, everybody will say, I could have coached them, to at least qualify to the AFCON and to the World Cup. But it feels like if we keep this coach and if he doesn't change things and if we keep performing the way we're performing, basically we're going to be we're going to continue the disappointment that we've had in these tournaments in the past. Basically be eliminated in the group stages of the AFCON, or maybe the round of 16 of the AFCON, and then group stages of the World Cup. So he did make changes to his credit, Petkovic. He called up Zinedine Zidane's son, as a sort of third goalkeeper for Algeria. Also brought in a pair of fullbacks, Rafiq Belghali and Mehdi Dorval, who are both playing in Serie A and Serie B respectively in Italy, Division 1, Division 2. And there's again, going back to the Sadio Mane discussion, is he going to be strong enough to sit Riyad Mahrez on the bench? Because behind him, there's a conveyor belt of talent. The leading goal scorer of the French league at the moment, his name is Ilan Kebel. He's 4 goals and 2 assists for Paris FC. Not Paris Saint-Germain, Paris FC. And he plays the exact same position as Mahrez, left-footed on the right wing, 27 years old, in his prime. He should be starting matches, right? If you go according to form. You also have Anis Hadj Moussa, one of the better players for Feyenoord, doing great in the Champions League. Played great against Aston Villa last week. Exact same profile. Left-footed, right winger. Bedreddin Bouanani is another name there for Stuttgart. Same profile. And credit to Riyad Mahrez probably influencing all of them. I'm sure if you ask them, they'll all say Mahrez was our number one influence. We're such a big fan of him and everything. But that's it. Like, now it's time. Like, give these kids a chance, man. Mahrez, he can help with, he can be in the group. I'm not saying don't call him up. Call him up. Let him be in the group. Let him be the captain. Let him coach from the bench. Bring him on if you need, a touch of magic. But these players, they're past it now. They're past it. They should go to the World. He should go to the World Cup. He should be, a contributing member of the team. He should not be a starter. Algeria should not be relying on him. He's proved that over the last 2 years. He doesn't deserve it. So, and these guys, they do. So things are not all rosy for Algeria. And that's sort of the window into there. In Group H, we have Tunisia. Similar to Cote d'Ivoire, best defense in Africa, haven't conceded a goal. And it would be really cool to see actually both of those teams finish the qualifiers without conceding a single goal. Tunisia has already qualified, and for the very first time, I feel quite good about Tunisia's individual players. I can't say that I felt this good about their individual players in probably since the 2018 World Cup. Brought in Ismail Gharbi from he's playing in Germany, all right? I always mess this up. I think he's playing at it's either Stuttgart or St. Pauli. On loan from Braga. Hannibal Mesbury from Burnley, another great midfielder. And then the Sebastian Tunekti from Celtic, who's been very, very good for the Scottish Premiership side. Just a lot of good young talent playing in very good clubs in Europe. again, this hasn't been the case in such a long time. So I feel good about Tunisia, even under this coach, Sami Trabelsi, who's, sort of a recycled coach, but even the way he's been talking in the press conferences have inspired me with a little bit of confidence. So Tunisia, they've been sort of, they might be for real. We'll see. And then finally, Group I, we have Ghana in first place with 19 points, Madagascar with 16 points, Comoros with 15 points. This is, I'm not predicting that a team like Comoros or Madagascar gonna get out of this group into the continental playoff, but it's definitely a possibility. Ghana are playing against Central African Republic in Meknes in Morocco, and then against Comoros. So, look, Ghana were incredibly disappointing with AFCON qualifying, but can't take anything away from them in this World Cup qualifying. They've been quite good here, so much deserved, especially Jordan Ayew. I think he's been one of alongside Mohamed Salah, alongside Mohamed Amin Amoura, Denny Bouanga. These have been the stars of FIFA World Cup qualifying in the African zone. So Jordan Ayew deserves all his flowers. Kudus has been good. Partey, when he's been playing, not been ill or anything, has been a hell of a player as well. So Otto Addo, still mixed marks, like that last match against Chad in September was quite disappointing. Even though they were dominant at times, but you just didn't really know how to see the game out when you had a lead, So yeah, still, I think Ghana, this is going to be a big confidence boost for them. Unfortunately, for the Black Stars, they're not going to be in Morocco in December, and that's, I think, something that all Africans are sad about. But this will be a big confidence boost if they can manage to see this out, and I think they will. And even if they don't, they'll qualify to the continental playoff. But I think they will be able to see this out. Everybody's going to take it on board, and then you have a chance to develop, some of that younger talent, the likes of Ibrahim Osman and things like that, and who knows where all that kind of talent is going to be next summer. But yeah, I love the attacking line in particular of Kudus, Semenyo, Ayew. They've been top notch. Anyways, so to recap, Egypt qualified to the World Cup. These are my predictions. Senegal, South Africa, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Algeria, Tunisia, and Ghana. Those are going to be our 9 teams at the World Cup. And the 4 teams that are going to qualify to the continental playoff, in my opinion, Burkina Faso, DR Congo, Cameroon, Gabon. Let me know what you think. Let me know which matches you'll be watching. And yeah, speak to y'all very soon on the next episode of the African 5 Side Podcast. Peace.